That's a
So true.
So true.
So true.
I need a lot of patience for you. So what are some examples here? Let's get right into it. What are some examples of people not being resilient that you've seen?
That I've seen.
Yeah.
Not being resilient. I think the capacity to handle your emotions is resilience. It is. I heard a therapist say the other day, you're like a surfer. Your emotions are the wave.
Right.
The wave can affect the surfboard. It can bring you up and down, but you never plunge beneath the waters.
Right.
You're never fully submerged. You're never fully taken over by your emotions. If you're angry, that's in you, but it's not you. It doesn't become your new personality. It doesn't control every facet of your physiology. You know, it's something that you're feeling. But if you can clock it, then you have control over it. Then you have resilience. So frustration comes your way. It enters into your, phenomenological landscape. You see, there's frustration, there's anger, there's sadness. You have these different emotions that pass through. They're passing through. It's not the new you. So I think resilience has to do with like not allowing what you feel right now to become your new personality.
Wow.
It all of a sudden becomes a new set of motivations, a new language and a tone of voice that you're using, a new mindset with new logic and new rules and a new rationale. All these we get crazy different because we get overcome by this one emotion that we feel.
Right.
And
that's something that I really admire about you. That's what's really quick.
Man.
Is like the other day we were talking, I think, at coffee, and you were just saying there's always this wave of emotion kind of going on underneath the surface is like waves of emotions and feelings, but to never be overcome by that. And so for the people listening, me and Austin, we're a bit different. Austin's like he's a you're very intellectual. And I am not. No, but you connect with people very intellectually, and you really value stoicism, which I admire that about you. That's something that I've never really contemplated too much. But I love that you're always that's saying there's always a wave that's kind of going on of emotion and feelings, but to never let that overcome you. And so that's something you really apply to your life, right?
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
But in the equal and opposite direction, I really appreciate the way that you can connect with people because I can be a little bit detached, in order to try to solve problems and think things through or whatever.
Right.
I think sometimes I can come across a little detached. And so I really, one thing I thought when I met you was I love how you are able to connect with the way people feel. You're able to resonate with them, match their energy. You're able to form these kind of form emotional intimacy with people very quickly in a way that a guy like me, I have trouble with that. So I remember thinking right when I met you, I was like, I really want more of that. I admire that.
I appreciate that, and I want more of that, which you have.
Well, there we go.
Because sometimes I
one day we'll just fuse and become mega pastor.
One mega pastor. We could probably get a surgery to make that happen.
We could probably make
Nowadays,
that,
there's just some messed up surgeries. We could make that happen, man. Come on. Half Chris, half Austin. I love that.
What about you? What are some examples of you of how would you counsel somebody through not being resilient?
Yeah, I just think some examples that I've seen, really practical ones, is like I've coached a lot of guys personally, like through maybe it's business or spiritual stuff or relationships. I have also trained a lot of people in the gym, and so I've had a lot of friends that want to start training in the gym. They want to get jacked, which is awesome. Like I want to train people to get stronger, but I've had so many friends who start out for maybe a month, and they're like, they're passionate month one and they're doing good, but then after month one, month two, they're like, man, where are the results? Where am I? Like, I should be jacked by now, and I'm like, man, that's just not how it is, right? I just told them, I'm like, you need to have a long-term vision. Like, you need to have a vision of yourself in 2 or 3 years that you're still doing this, you're still working out maybe 3-5 times a week, but also, what do you look like then? Because that's really the goal, is that you would be, persevering and moving through things. And so I think I just see a lack of determination in people, like people that start something, but then they don't finish it because they don't see the results right away. I think we have like an incredibly impatient culture where people want results now. It's a now culture. TikTok, Instagram videos are quick, dopamine release, and so we want all these quick fixes, so people don't really have these this resilience to actually push through and accomplish things. And so Yeah, gym is one. I would say relationships too. I see a lack of resilience in relationships. So, marriage is falling apart where, the other person isn't loving them the way they want. And so then they don't have that resilience, that ability in relationships to actually be resilient, to communicate, to work through things and come to a conclusion and come together. They have this... I've heard the saying lots where it's like, man, I just don't feel like I am in love with this person anymore. Yeah. And for me, that's an example of a lack of resilience because, yeah, of course you don't feel like you're in love with them today. Maybe you're not going to feel with them love a week from now, but maybe you will, right? And it's
it's
lot
not
more
about you.
It's not about you. It's about them. And it's really about choice, right?
Yeah.
And so... I just see a lack of resilience, I think, in people's determination to actually accomplish things they set out to do, but also in relationships a lot to actually persevere and actually love the other person and choose connection over disconnection. So
that is excellent. That is excellent. I know. I remember being at a church conference and there was a psychology book on the table. They were selling a psychology book, and there were people talking. They're going, they're selling psychology books. The only thing you need is the spirit, man. And I was just going, yeah, okay. There are practical aspects to us as organisms. There are neurotransmitters that have an effect on your brain and on your health. They affect everything you do. You wake up because of a cortisol buildup. All of a sudden it's like, boom, these neurotransmitters are being released, and woof, you're awake. It's changes in brain chemistry that wake you up in the morning and then make you fall asleep. It changes in brain chemistry that cause you perhaps to feel anxious or depressed. Yes, it can be patterns of thought. Yes, it can be you not relying on God. But sometimes you just got an excess of some neurotransmitter or some blockage somewhere. Something's going on in your brain chemistry that is not firing in an optimal way.
Right.
Going to the gym will affect your brain chemistry. It'll change the way you feel about yourself. I heard Andrew Huberman say, the effect of testosterone on the mind is this. This is so cool. Testosterone makes effort feel good. Makes effort feel good.
Wow.
Which is why I think there's a little bit more motivation on the male side of things to go to challenge and to do something hard, go do a 100-kilometer run or like to join the army or do something hard, because just as a stupid example, this morning, camera guy Josh goes, we need some cords, some cords for the lights. And the cords are outside in the trailer, so I got to go outside in the cold and grab the keys and do the trailer. And I got to climb into the trailer and the spiders and the whatever and to try to find this stupid cold box. And I got to move the box. So it's just effort. But I realized halfway through, I was like, you know what? It actually feels really good to move this stuff around. And to pick up this heavy box and to find the thing and then to solve the problem, right?
Come on.
So maybe, one of the reasons why in our culture we don't have resilience is because there's another book that indicated they were looking at hormones in men, androgynous hormones in men like testosterone. And they were saying, over the last 40, 50 years, testosterone has been going down by 1% every year.
That's wild.
Just like worldwide, there's a worldwide phenomenon. Like it's crazy. So there's a number of reasons for that. But if you can optimize your sleep, so you jack up your testosterone that way, right? If you don't get enough sleep, most of your testosterone is produced in the last 2 hours of sleep. If you can optimize your nutrition, so you get all those micronutrients, so you can form testosterone in the first place, and if you can get your fitness in order, all of a sudden now your brain chemistry has changed, just in a practical way, such that effort feels good.
Crazy.
So if you lack motivation, it's a bit of an exponential growth thing. If you can just take that first step to start to put your sleeping habits in order, that's a big one. Yep. And then start to just do a little bit of exercise. Just do something, right?
Right.
All of a sudden, boom, your brain chemistry changes, your hormones change, and your ability to resolutely get through things that are hard changes.
Yeah.
So it's not so mystical. Yeah, I think we get a little mystical sometimes.
That's good.
Yeah.
Man, you're like a scientist and a preacher in one. But seriously, I love the scientific approach to that. That's really good. Do you mind if let's react to this first clip here of our favorite guy here, David Goggins?
How you gain mental toughness, how you become the person you want to be, is constantly facing the things that you don't want to face. If you constantly run away from things that you don't want to face, how is there growth?
Really good. Come on, David Goggins. He's an absolute animal, man. I love the guy.
Excellent.
He's so good.
So one thing I think about you is that it seems like you're the kind of person that if something comes into your field of view, you want to think it through. If a problem presents itself, you want to fix it.
Yeah.
How did you develop that kind of mindset?
Oh, that's really good, man. Let me just think about that for a second. I just think I constantly think about, I guess, leveling up. Like, I constantly think about how can I get to the next level. And I think with our faith, that can be a good thing, and sometimes maybe a maybe a distracting thing, because in the gospel, it's you are enough, you are loved, you are saved, and it's all the works of Christ on the cross and what He's done for you, and realizing the inheritance we have in Christ. So that's awesome. But then I think I've also over the years really been obsessed with personal growth and leveling up, getting to the next level. And so I'm always thinking about as a husband, as a leader, as a pastor, as a preacher, what is the next level and how can I get there practically, right? And so I love video games. I grew up playing video games all the time, and I love it. And when you're in these video games, you're constantly facing the next boss. You're completing a level that's easy, going against a boss, and then you beat him, you go to the next level. The same thing until the end, right? And so I've just kind of seen life, I guess, the same way. I think in every single stage of life, we have these levels that are a certain difficulty, and there's different seasons that are a certain difficulty, but then there's little bosses at the end, and maybe your season is, you're really struggling with jealousy, and so how can you work through jealousy, defeat that boss, and kind of level up? How can you, have a problem in your business, face it, learn, grow, get enough knowledge to kind of be able to solve it and excel in the area, and then go to the next level? And so I've constantly just seen just life as levels, and I think that saying there's levels to it. I think that's a really real thing. There's levels to these things, right? I remember listening to Kobe Bryant, and he's such an animal. He's such a beast with his approach to life, and he was the guy that was always in the gym at it's like 3 or 4 in the morning, where other guys are like, man, how's this even possible? This guy played until 10 o'clock, was up to 12 or 1. He's up at 3 or 4, right? But that work ethic he has always inspired me, I guess, to really look at his life and be like, man, this guy he's determined. He's a vision, but he's a hard worker. Like, he's never going to stop working and solving problems, right? And so. Yeah, to sum that up, I think the way I've really been able to face problem after problem is really, again, just seeing life as levels, and just knowing that if I don't face this now, I'm gonna have to face this later. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of people need to know, is if you don't solve this problem now, you're gonna face it again. If you can't get over you being jealous, bitter, angry, whatever the problem is, it's just going to come back again later. So practically speaking, I'm like, let's just solve it. Let's move on. Let's get better. And let's grow, right? So
I heard a therapist say the other day that one of the greatest factors for a good relationship is to aim not simply at goals, but at growth. So imagine the difference between somebody aiming at goals and growth. A person that aims simply at goals goes, for example, bachelor's degree. That is what I want.
Right.
Once they get there, dopamine peaks for like 10 minutes, and then they dip below baseline. Then all of a sudden, now I'm less happy than I was before.
Yeah.
And now I'm a little bit stranded because now I have no direction, because because I kind of arbitrarily picked a goal, any goal. Maybe it's something society told me I should do, or maybe something my parents showed me I should do. I just had a goal, and then I got it. And now, where am I going? What am I doing?
Right.
Growth is the person who goes learning. I got my bachelor's degree on the way to that learning, but learning is like a carrot on a stick where I never actually get there. And so one thing I really appreciate about you is that for you, it's like it's whether it's physical strength, learning, mindset. These things are carrot on a stick that I can have goals on the way, but all growth involves goals. Not all goals have growth. Sometimes you can arbitrarily pick a goal because your parents told you should be a doctor or something, and you're like, I'm
Right.
going to become a doctor. And then you get there, and now you're less happy than you were before. So how did you develop the ability to always come back to growth rather than simply goals?
Oh man, that's a really good question. I think if I think honestly about it, I think it comes back down to a quote by John Maxwell. And have you heard of John Maxwell before? No. Oh man, he's an incredible leadership guru. He used to be a pastor. I think at age 27, he was a pastor of a church of about like 10,000 people.
We'll get there.
That's going to be us next week. But yeah, he's a pastor of 10,000 people at 27. Wow. It's wild. Just like, and he didn't grow the church; he started the church. But he has a quote that's change equals growth. And so, if you want to change, it equals growth, and if you want to grow, you have to change. And so, I just kind of adapted from that. I just realized. His entire book is kind of geared towards leadership. It's all geared towards how can you be the best leader. And again, it was all about growth, all about change. So I'm kind of saying the same thing over and over again. But all that to say, yeah, it was just, I guess he really, instilled in me through his books that there's levels to this, there's levels to your leadership, there's levels to your relationships, there's levels to your personal health, your emotional health, and really to become a student of growth. That if you can approach every day with a growth mindset, all those little obstacles that are coming your way, all those lies from the enemy, any opposition in relationships or in church or in business, whatever it is, you see them as opportunities because, here's an opportunity to grow. And I think about Paul in the New Testament and how he constantly is rejoicing in trials. And Paul and Silas are in prison and they're worshiping the Lord. They're seeing this trial as an opportunity to glorify God, to worship Him, to be a testimony, right?
Wow.
And so, it might be a bit of a stress to try to, combine that into a growth mindset conversation, but they're seeing this trial as an opportunity for God to move, right? And so I just think in my life, I've just kind of come down to the realization that I'm like, I want to become everything that God's created me to be. And that means taking ownership of every single thing and actually really using it as an opportunity to grow in Christ. And so, so that's kind of, I guess, my answer to your question. I don't know if that kind of answers it a little bit.
That's excellent.
What are some examples of how have you built resilience? What have been some keys in your life to building resilience?
I think it's important to know that you are not your emotions. Your emotions pass through and then they leave.
Wow.
You feel it right now. It almost overtakes you. It overcomes you. It's like anger, especially anger, will just like you just go into this rage, like this fury.
Right.
It's like your whole physiology changes, your tone of voice changes, your body changes, everything changes. It's just passing through. If you just took a breath and slowed down, you can make that part of you shrink back to its proper place.
Yeah, that's good.
So I would say whether it's a self-doubt, whether it's an insecurity, whether it's a negative feeling, perhaps anxiety.
Yeah.
All of these things simply pass through, and the ability to clock them, the ability to realize in and of myself, not that I am anxious, but anxiety is visiting me for a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
The ability to recognize it, I think, is the first step in developing the emotional resilience to be able to deal with it. You go, you're arguing with your girlfriend, you're arguing with your wife, you're arguing with somebody, you feel anger coming up, and you feel like whatever this anger says to do right now, I'm going to do it. It says to yell, I'm going to yell. It says to fire back, I'm going to fire back. It says to hit him with an insult, I'm going to hit him with an insult. If you thought about that for 10 minutes, and then you came back to it, you go, it doesn't make a lot of sense to insult this person that I love. But anger says, do it. And if anger takes you over, doesn't it say, perhaps it's in James chapter 2 or chapter 1, the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God.
Wow.
So these emotions take you over all of a sudden, and it's like this rushing water. But if you would just take a breath and make sure that you're above the water and that you're not below the waves and the chaos where all your impulses take over, that would be the first step in developing that kind of emotional resilience. Yeah.
No, I love that, and I've already said it, but I truly admire that about you. That
Thanks,
you can be above the wave of emotions, and I just have seen way too many people in my life been ruled by their emotions, and so I think it's awesome that you're doing that and you're mindful of that. And just a question I want to kind of go into, be maybe a little bit more vulnerable. How often do you experience, let's say, anxiety or insecurity on a weekly basis? Like these emotions that you're saying, hey, let's make sure these subside, they don't rule me. Like how often do you experience those emotions?
Not much anymore.
Okay.
Not much anymore. You know what? Honestly, I could chalk it up to some spiritual stuff, or I could chalk it up to some kind of
Personal growth stuff, or
yeah, I could chalk it up to that. But really, at the end of the day, the biggest difference to my mindset
yeah,
has come through the effect of Christ on my habits.
wow,
Christ is the logos. He's the reason. He's the rationale.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the thing that I'm aiming at. And as I align myself with that goal, I start to develop these habits that change my mindset. Really practical. Once I started going to bed and waking up at the same time every day,
yeah,
which just regulated my serotonin, real simple, get my testosterone in check, get all my hormones in check, fix that. Once I got my nutrition,
yeah,
because, I don't know if you know this, but most of your serotonin comes from your gut.
yeah.
So all of a sudden, if you got a bad gut, if you got bad digestion, I got celiac disease. I'm allergic to gluten.
You're just waiting for me to make fun of you.
Yeah, I am.
I was just like, I'll hold off.
But I had a bad gut.
Yeah,
It caused me great anxiety. Why? I couldn't regulate my emotions, just practically speaking, because my chemistry in my body was off.
yeah.
So once I fixed the nutrition, I fixed the sleep, and then I exercise a couple times a week. I did those three things.
Wow.
There were other mindset things. There was spiritual growth. There was good habits and things like that. But those three things changed my brain chemistry such that I experienced less anxiety.
Wow.
Which is awesome.
Yeah,
You know?
100%.
So it's a lot more practical, I think, than people might assume.
Yeah.
I was a very anxiety-ridden, rattled.
Written work. Yep.
Yep. Teenager.
Right.
Huge anxiety, even to the point of suicidal ideation, like really, really big, overwhelming depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
And you know what? I would stay up till 2 and I would eat crap food and I wouldn't exercise.
Yeah.
And I fixed those things. It's not that I fixed those things. It's that God in his spirit worked into me and said, you got to put your life together and take on some responsibility so that you can go and bless others.
Yeah.
You need to put your own house in order a little bit. Allow me to help you. So the spirit came into my heart, gave me a reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
And you start putting these things in order. And all of a sudden, your brain kind of fixes itself when you align yourself with a proper goal. There were other things like creating a plan and assuming positive intentions in others and plotting out your day and things like this. But for the most part, those things helped. Yeah. Jordan
awesome.
Peterson's right, man. He's the best clinical psychologist in the world. And he goes, hey, clean up your room.
Clean up your room.
Really simple things. Things that your grandma told you growing up, but it works.
That's so good.
What about you?
That's really good. I think I have 3 more practical things here. I think one of the biggest things that I really stand by is do it scared. Whatever you're facing, just do it scared.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say I've done a ton of incredible things in my life. We're both young.
Don't cut yourself short.
No.
Yeah,
But
no, you have.
yeah, I mean, I've
It's
had,
incredible.
by the grace of God, been able to plant a church, started a business, and the business is okay, but the church is, it's growing, it's taking off, and I'm excited about it. But I think what people often assume is that they'll say to you, man, you're so brave for starting this church. Like, how did you get the vision, and how did you have the heart and the courage to raise $120,000 and just plant this church and all this stuff? And I'm like, honestly, most of the time when I'm doing this, I was genuinely scared doing it, right? Yeah. Moving out here is awesome, but I didn't have any community out here. We knew 0 people until I met you and some other key people. I didn't know anybody. When we're raising the money, half the time was like, man, no one's going to give to this. This is a hypothetical church. It's not launched yet. It's not an established organization, right?
Yeah.
And so Yeah, I did so much of this journey of church planting scared. Like just being like, God, I have so much faith in you, and I had so many moments of excitement and faith, but it's so many moments of fear and anxiety of like, God, are you going to come through? Is this possible? Needing to repent, change my way I thought, and coming back to a positive thinking with the Lord. But man, I just did so much of it scared, and I think if we can just realize that things are not going to be perfect always, things are not going to be easy always, but if you can just make the choice to not be ruled by your emotions and do it scared, you will get done so much more than anyone else ever will.
That's excellent.
Just a couple more things. Here, you gave me another thought. I feel like you have a thought.
No, I don't. I'm listening to you. This is fantastic.
I would just say another important one, I think, is taking full responsibility for your life.
Wow.
This is a way to actually build resilience, is to realize that your life is the way it is because of you. And the quality of your life is your fault. It's no one else's fault. It's your fault.
And maybe just so we're not, how can I say, if you're the victim of some, terrible
Yes.
abuse or something, we're not saying, your dad left you because it's your fault. We're not saying that. But what it seems like you are saying is your ability to interpret the events that have occurred, what you do with the data, your mindset in the midst of suffering is your responsibility. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
You're not saying, hey,
I'm not saying if you're a real victim,
you got cancer
exactly.
because you're. Yeah. We're not saying that.
That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. No, I think there's like
Your
real
mindset.
Your mindset.
Is your responsibility.
Your
in
mindset.
whatever the
100%. Yeah. There's I guess I would say fake victims and real victims. There's people where again something like as really bad has happened. You've got cancer.
Yes.
You've been the product of something really terrible that's happened to you. But I think there's a lot of people in society that are choosing to be victims. That are allowing their mind to be ruled by the enemy. They're allowing themselves to be completely discouraged by everything that's going on around them.
Yeah.
And the analogy that I often think about for victim mentality is, somebody who has a car and a victim would say, why is my car so dirty? Why did I run out of gas? Why is my tire flat? And it's like, man, you should have cleaned your car. You should have filled up gas. You should have filled up your tire. You're responsible for your life. Yes. But someone who's not a victim looks at the car and says, my car's messy. I'm going to clean it. My tire's low. I'm going to fill it up. Yeah. I need gas. I'm going to fill it up. Right. And so I think taking full responsibility for your life, and even if like life has handed you a crappy hand, and if you do have a bad situation, you can still have a positive mindset and a work ethic that can completely change your life. Yeah. All right, guys, that concludes part 1 of Resilience. Our next episode is coming next week, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening.